This is Wendy Morin, and today we're going to work on a second grade lesson that involves problem solving with coins and bills. We are specifically working on an instructional routine called Capturing Quantities routine that may help your students be more successful for this lesson, particularly students with disabilities. The overall objective of the lesson is to solve two-step word problems involving dollars and cents with totals within $100 or $1. So it's problem solving with coins and bills, all right? And we are using the instructional routine to identify important quantities and relationships in multi-step word problems, which is always a big struggle for our students with disabilities. The first thing I would encourage you to do so we can support these students is include an anchor chart in your classroom, or if you're working remotely, to do it in your Google Classroom, but have it as accessible easily, the coin names, their pictures, and the values of each coin. Also including in that the symbols for the money and the dollar sign, so the students will not get confused at all. And until they've been working with it for quite some time, it really would be helpful to keep it up during the whole unit. Same thing for the value of the dollar bills. I think the visual of a real dollar bill really supports the students in understanding the value when it comes to solving these money word problems. So what is this capturing quantities routine? The goal of the routine is to help our students identify important quantities and relationships in these multi-step word problems. So why are we using this? It supports the standard for mathematical practice number 2, which is reason abstractly and quantitatively. So here's an overview of the process of the instructional routine. How do we capture quantities is the first part of it, and we are also identifying relationships. So the problem is Jackie bought a sweater at the store for $42. She had 3 $5 bills and 6 $1 bills left over. So first, when we're capturing the quantities, we want to stress to our students, it is something you can count. Another quantity we could include would be measurement, but right now we're working on money, so I would stress it's something you can count, although typically it is something you can count or measure. So it might be dollar bills that we're counting out or coins that we're counting out, but it's something where we can come up with a number. Then identify the relationships, which sounds fairly simple, but in deciphering these word problems, it's not always clear. The money paid for the sweater is pretty clear, but money left over for a second grader who never maybe carries money, what does that really mean? So be clear in that. Money left over, and I would even start connecting it to some of the mathematical operations if you do get a chance to do that, an opportunity to do that. Another relationship would be the money you started with. So the problem is Jackie bought a sweater at the store for $42. That's pretty clear, $42. She had 3 $5 bills and 6 $1 bills left over. 2 hurdles there. Number 1 is coming up with the value of the 3 $5 bills and the 6 $1 bills. And then, of course, the whole concept of leftover. What does that mean in terms of the math that we're doing? So you'll want to make sure your students know that. If you had the full amount, the total amount, subtracted the sweater, you would have the money left over. So we know the money left over and we know the sweater, but what's the unknown quantity is what money did she have originally, the money she started with. So it's really kind of other pieces of the puzzle together. So we can help our students by encouraging them to draw diagrams which we are going to later discuss and compare to further the understanding of our students. So I would encourage them to draw whatever picture diagram is meaningful for them. I'm going to show you a few here, if your students don't create them, you might want to show them these other models. Okay, but we could just do it where we show that this is the two parts added together. These are the two parts added together with lines connecting them. Okay, the total we don't know is the money Jackie had before she bought the sweater. One of you students may come up with a bubble diagram where the sweater and then actually start putting in the operation somewhere. Money left over equals, almost coming up with an equation. Your students might come up with that. That might be something they can share with the rest of the class, and I would be encouraging them to do that because it's now tying in the mathematical operations. In all of them, I would encourage at some point your students were showing where we came up with the money left over for the $21. Okay, we might have a tape diagram. We don't know the unknown quantity. We really want to stress that. What does Jackie have in her wallet or pocketbook? We don't know. But we do know what she spent on the sweater was $42, what the money left over was $21, and we can add them together to know how much she had in her wallet to begin with. Students might draw other diagrams, and I would encourage you to encourage them to be creative, to make a real connection with these word problems. I would encourage you to encourage your students to be creative in the diagrams they draw. It will help them to connect more with the word problems. It will help them to become more successful in solving word problems. It really is a big help in helping them understand the word problem. So she's at a store, whether it's a wallet or a pocketbook they might draw. You could encourage them to do that. Do we know what's in there? No, we do not know what's in there. We know that buying something is subtracting, so we would want to encourage our students to maybe start developing that concept that when we buy something, it is taking away from what is in the pocketbook. What we have left over is the money. How could we now use these two amounts to get back to the unknown quantity in the pocketbook or the wallet? So whatever diagrams your students come up with, create, I would suggest that you maybe pair them together, put them in small groups where they can do a noticing and wondering of the various diagrams and let them learn from each other. And of course, the underlying lesson here that's not included in this particular instructional routine is knowing how much money it's worth, what's left over, being able to count that out. Okay, and at the end, your students will be doing a reflection, just like we do as teachers, to see what they learned from doing this word problem and what they learned from their fellow students. And then, of course, their summary.